Imagine a man so brilliant that a single thought changed the entire universe. Not a king, not a soldier, not a ruler of armies, just a man, a desk, and a mind that would not stop asking why. He was laughed at, overlooked, pushed to the very edge of the world, and then, with 5 letters and 1 tiny symbol, he rewrote everything. Long before the world knew his name, there was just a boy, a curious, restless boy who asked questions that adults couldn't answer. He didn't follow rules well. He didn't sit still. Some of his teachers told him he had no future, but when he was alone, the boy's mind was on fire. He dreamed about light, about speed, about time itself. He asked himself, what would it feel like to ride alongside a beam of light? Nobody around him had an answer, so he decided he would find one himself. That decision would take decades. It would cost him relationships, jobs, and comfort. But the answer, when it came, would be worth every single sacrifice. As a young man, he moved from country to country, searching for a place he belonged. He was stateless for a time, a man without a country. He applied to university after university. One eventually accepted him, and it changed everything. He threw himself into the world of physics, the science of how everything works. He devoured every idea he could find. But when he graduated, the doors did not swing open. He couldn't get a teaching job. He couldn't get a research post. He ended up in a government office, checking other people's inventions. A dead-end job, most people would say. But in between the paperwork, his mind never stopped. He would scribble ideas on scraps of paper during lunch. He'd stare out the office window at the sky and wonder, what if space and time were not fixed? What if they bent, stretched, changed, depending on how fast you moved? These were wild, almost impossible ideas, but he couldn't let them go. For years, he chased these ideas the way a dog chases a car, pure, relentless instinct. And nobody, not his bosses, not his friends, not even his family, fully understood what was happening inside his mind. He was utterly alone with his genius. And then came the year everything changed. In a single burst of brilliance, he wrote not 1, but 4 papers, each one more earth-shattering than the last. The scientific world had no idea what had just hit it. The biggest idea of all was something the world had never imagined. He said, the laws of physics are the same everywhere in the universe, no matter if you're standing still or hurtling through space at incredible speed. But here's where things get strange. The speed of light, he said, never changes. Not for you, not for a rocket, not for anything. It is the one constant in a universe that changes everything else. And from that single idea, something extraordinary followed. He wrote it down in the most famous equation ever put on paper. 5 characters, a letter, an equals sign, another letter, a tiny raised number. Energy equals mass times the speed of light, squared. It meant that even a tiny speck of matter holds a monstrous amount of energy inside it, like a sleeping giant, waiting to be woken. The scientific community was stunned. Some celebrated, some argued, some refused to believe it at all. But the math didn't care about opinions. The equations worked, every time, without fail. Slowly, the scientific world had to accept the impossible. Space was not what they thought. Time was not what they thought. And the universe? The universe was stranger and more beautiful than any of them had ever dreamed. And it all came from one man, sitting in a quiet office, thinking. But the story, it was only just beginning. Fame, when it finally arrived like a flood. Almost overnight, he became the most famous scientist on the planet. Newspapers printed his face. Crowds followed him in the streets. He was a rock star in a lab coat. But with the spotlight came something darker. His country, the place he had grown up and loved, turned against people like him. A dangerous regime rose to power, and suddenly he was no longer welcome at home. His books were burned. His name was erased from official lists. He left. He never went back. He found a new home at a famous research institution on the east coast of a new country. He had a small office, a chalkboard, and all the time in the world. He spent the rest of his life there, chasing one final dream. He wanted a single theory, one grand equation that explained every force in the universe. He called it the unified field theory, the theory that would tie all of physics together. He chased it for decades. He never found it. But the chase itself changed science forever. Meanwhile, something terrifying was happening in the world. The equation he had written, E equals mc squared, had pointed the way to a terrifying new weapon. He had not built it. He had not wanted it. But his formula had made it possible. He spent his final years fighting for peace, writing letters, signing petitions, speaking out against the very destruction his science had helped make possible. The genius, the refugee, the peacemaker, all three lived inside the same wild, white-haired man. Near the end of his life, he was offered something extraordinary. He was asked to lead an entire nation, to be its head of state. He turned it down. He said he lacked the natural aptitude for dealing with people and performing official duties. He belonged to the universe of ideas, not the machinery of power. He kept working, right until the very end. When he passed away, a nurse noticed something. On his bedside table, a half-finished page of equations. Even at the very end, he was still reaching for that one final answer. That image, a brilliant mind working to the very last breath, became the symbol of a life fully lived. His legacy did not die with him. Every GPS device that helps you navigate uses corrections based on his ideas. Every image of a black hole humanity has ever captured, made possible by his equations. Every nuclear power station in the world traces its roots back to his desk. The wild hair, the mustache, the eyes that always seem to be looking just slightly past you into something invisible. He became the face of genius itself, not because he was born that way, but because he never stopped asking why. One question, one lifetime, one universe forever changed. So who was this man? A boy who failed to impress his teachers, a young man who couldn't get a job in his field, a refugee who lost everything but his mind, and yet he changed the world, not with money, not with armies, not with politics, with a thought, with a question, with a piece of chalk and a blackboard. His name, when you finally hear it, will feel obvious, because his face, that wild hair, that mustache, those knowing eyes, is one of the most recognized images in human history. His ideas live in your phone, in your GPS, in the stars above your head. The universe kept his secrets for billions of years, and one man, with wild hair and an unstoppable curiosity, cracked it open. So, who do you think this legend is? Drop your guess in the comments below.